Hi everyone, welcome to Wellness. So for those of you I don't know, my name is Dr. Olivia Joseph and I practice in the functional medicine department right next to
Dr. Anthony Pasek.
So I've been here for 15 years doing functional medicine for 17 years. And Dr. Anthony's been on my side for how many years now? 4, 5?
3?
Oh, that's it. Gosh, it feels like a lifetime.
Right.
So together we deal with things every day such as hormone health, gut health, autoimmune issues, thyroid health. And today we're going to talk about allergies and asthma. I was telling Dr. Anthony that we were going to talk about this topic because we are in the heat of ragweed allergy season. So for those of you that are miserable right now, it's ragweed. It's really, really high in September every single year. But a lot of people who have sensitivities to ragweed tend to have sensitivities to other things as well. And this is in Missouri, in St. Louis, it's the 9th worst state for allergies in the country. So I think allergies are bad everywhere right now, honestly, kind of like the spring. So we wanted to talk to you guys about some root cause issues, but also natural solutions. So you're not just covering up symptoms, because we don't want you to be miserable. Having allergies is not fun. So what are some of the symptoms you think of when you think of allergies?
Yeah, I sound a little bit congested right now. I'm feeling a little bit of that sort of pressure, some drainage. I blew my nose probably 10 times on my drive here to work this morning. When I have a sneezing fit, my eyes get all watery and maybe a little bit red. It almost looks like you just woke up.
Yeah, exactly. Like the itchy eyes.
Yeah.
Some people are coughing, having trouble breathing. For me, one of the things I notice when it's a really, really peak allergy time is I have fatigue. And it's a weird type of fatigue. It's not like, oh, I didn't sleep well. It's like a heaviness. And I'm used to being high energy, so I don't like the way that feels. And it's really not a good feeling when you feel like tired, heavy, foggy, you can't take a deep breath. You look in the mirror, I notice sometimes my eyelids are swollen and I'm like, what is this? It literally shows up. So there's a lot of different symptoms. But essentially, allergies are your immune system responding to something.
Right.
So let's talk about some triggers for allergies. We're going to give you guys solutions, but let's talk about some root cause underlying mechanisms that can impact allergies. So what is the first thing you think of?
I'm going to say a gut.
Okay.
You knew that would be my answer.
I know. So I think of something like, so what do you think of in the gut?
Bacterial overgrowth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you have bacterial overgrowth in your gut, it releases histamine. So then you eat foods that are high histamine, which we'll talk about. Then you get hit with allergies outside. Plus, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. Allergies are an immune response. So obviously it makes sense to look at the gut. So we see bacterial overgrowth releasing histamine, and sometimes eating high histamine foods will trigger allergies. So what are some high histamine foods?
You probably have this list memorized better than me. I think of dried, aged stuff like cheese and cured meat and stuff like that.
Smoked meats, yes. Believe it or not, the longer your leftovers sit, the more histamine that they build or produce. So white wine, very, 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 very high histamine food. Literally, my husband, I love white wine. He has a glass of white wine and he's like, oh, I've been white wined. I've been drugged. I'm like, you have histamine because you have bacterial overgrowth? Right. So white wine, bone broth.
Yeah.
So bone broth, good for you, but if you have a lot of histamine or bacterial overgrowth, it can make it worse. Even healthy gut foods are fermented foods, but fermented foods can really, really set off histamine too. So if sauerkraut, kombucha, I haven't seen pickles do it too much, but kimchi. Yeah. So if you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. I try to eat those foods and either they make me bloated or they make my allergies worse or I break out in hives. This is a good indication that you have too much histamine, which can come from bacterial overgrowth in the gut.
Right.
Another thing I think of is food sensitivities.
Yeah.
And one thing I've said about allergies for years is we can't change the outside environment. I mean, you could move, you could take allergy medicine, but we can change the internal environment. So when we're able to identify food triggers that are producing inflammation in your body and therefore also creating an unfavorable environment in your gut, that can definitely make you more hyper reactive to the outside. I hear people all the time say, we'll go through their food allergy test with them, we pull foods out of their diet, and what are some of the symptoms that resolve?
All those allergy ones.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, I'm not congested anymore. I never knew food could do that. Oh my gosh, I can breathe so much better. I'm not snoring, all sorts of fun stuff like that. Energy levels go up too, weight tends to go down.
Another quick point, 2 points on that. I think of that immune response showing up in other ways too. The IgE reaction is what a food allergy is, but that can also show up as bumps or hives on the skin, or like that sensation of tingling or itchiness around your lips or in your throat or anywhere on your skin, really. And those things can get better when you identify those foods as well. So.
I hear a lot of people too say that they feel like food's getting stuck in their throat, like their esophagus is just spasming, and usually that has to do with something called eosinophilic esophagitis. Long story short, you produce eosinophils as reactions to foods sometimes, and you also produce eosinophils when you have infections in your gut. So we've covered a lot of root cause issues, we've covered symptoms, we've covered that this comes from the immune system, talking about gut. Let's talk about some ingredients that work really well as natural antihistamines. And the only disclaimer I want to say to using natural supplements is you have to use a loading dose at first. So you can't do, only a little, you take a lot, and then when you're like, oh my gosh, this actually works, my allergies are so much better, that's when you start reducing. You don't slowly work your way up. You start high, you get relief, then you work your way down.
I find that's the biggest problem that a lot of patients have, because you would never take 6 Quercetin. It would be a really bad day.
Right.
And they're very gun shy about, why am I going to take 12 of these in a day?
Right.
It's not the same thing as an antihistamine.
Yeah.
You're not going to get medicine head or be, knocked out.
Well, exactly, and that's one of the side effects of these antihistamine medications is fatigue, grogginess. I've had some people report like weird taste in their mouth, headaches, things of that nature. But here's the problem with antihistamines. They have what's called a rebound effect. So what that means is they could still start to take a while to work, but then eventually they stop working. That's one of the things when you're on that type of medication all the time, usually they stop working, and then you have to switch medicine or you require new or more medicine.
Right.
So natural ingredients. So some of the natural ingredients we'll find in natural antihistamines are, what's the first one that comes to your mind?
Quercetin. And someone just asked me the other day, what is quercetin? I don't remember. I don't know.
You know what?
It is,
I forgot what it came from.
Really well.
Quercetin is in a lot of supplements too, that are used for immune health.
Right.
So what you're going to find the ingredients in things that are designed to be natural antihistamines are also ingredients that are used to support immune health, which are also ingredients that are natural anti-inflammatories. That brings bromelain to my mind. You're going to see quercetin and bromelain in almost every natural antihistamine out there. Well, what is bromelain? It comes from the stem of pineapple, and it's a natural anti-inflammatory. I've seen people use it for pain. I've seen it used for allergies. I've seen it used for asthma. I've even seen it used for digestive health and digestive wellness. So quercetin is used in antiviral products, immune boosting products. You also find it in allergy products. You think of another ingredient?
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C, immune boosting, antioxidant. So antioxidants are very, very important when it comes to allergies, and that leads me to, we talk a ton about glutathione, but NAC or N-acetylcysteine, which is a precursor to glutathione, is in almost every natural immune product, antihistamine product. It's also showing up in antiviral products.
Right.
Anything you want to say about glutathione that I didn't cover? I know you love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like magnesium, right? It does so much, like its impact in improving so many different health issues is
really
very, very
good for
large.
respiratory health, right? We were talking about this like a year ago with everything with COVID, that glutathione. So N-acetylcysteine is a precursor to glutathione, very good for respiratory health and wellness. A lot of people just with NAC or glutathione see immediate improvement in breathing. Well, N-acetylcysteine and glutathione, they also work with your detox pathways.
Yeah, your liver. If I can't get somebody's liver to look better, that's going to be a go-to.
So very, very important at clearing. Histamine, inflammation, all
the
that.
elephant in the room, autoimmunity, you know, like Hashimoto's and other things that helps to balance out that immune system imbalance.
And people with autoimmune disease do tend to be more reactive to things. They're more sensitive to environment, smells, foods, all sorts of things like that. So the last ingredient I'm going to mention, and I know you want to touch on DAO before we wrap up. We're going to keep it short and sweet and to the point, and we're going to be talking about immune health next week because we're going into cold, flu, we're in the middle of COVID season, runny noses, allergies. So it's going to piggyback today's talk because today we're talking about allergies and asthma, which is immune, but next week we're going to talk about specific immune boosting, root causes, things to do, things to look into ingredient wise as well. So I want to talk about stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is used in a lot of antihistamines as well. And it is supposed to desensitize you to things environmentally. I don't know if you've heard, some cultures, I think in Europe, people who are really, really reactive to poison ivy, they would I think they would somehow encapsulate poison ivy, give it to them orally, and it would desensitize them to poison ivy.
That's cool.
If you think about it, that's what you do when you get allergy shots, right? When you get allergy shots, and the funniest thing about allergy shots is if you start them, they say it could take up to a year to work, and you need to do these allergy shots for 3 to 5 years. Like, who would ever give do you think anybody would ever, if you said to them, this could take a year to work and you're going to have to do it for 3 to 5 years, do you think they're really going to give us a chance to work with them? Probably not. So I always think, I'm like, that's crazy that somebody would give, I know allergies are miserable, but it's just kind of one of those things. So stinging nettle is another ingredient you will see in a lot of things that are specifically designed for allergies, asthma, histamine. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Anthony. He made mention he wanted to touch on DAO. So go ahead.
So DAO is an enzyme, and one of its primary jobs is to take histamine and break it down. And some people, there are genetic tests for this. If you ever do the 23andMe or any of those where you can figure out your particular mutations and stuff, DAO is a pretty common one. And everything we just talked about, some people just get really stuck when we work on the root causes and work with even these nutrients and stuff. It's like, it's just not there. You may not be doing a very good job of making that enzyme. Yeah. And you just can't ever get your histamine levels to come down even with all these other things. So you can supplement the enzyme of DAO. And it does seem to work in some cases. It's not usually my first step by any means or go-to, but it does seem to be a nice in the back pocket kind of option. Yeah,
and it's not going to hurt you if you end up going to that in your back pocket. It might not help you. You might be, and it's really, but it's not going to hurt you. And if you think about the mechanism of action, it makes perfect sense to use DAO enzyme. Yep. But that's one of our later options that we tend to use. So there are also natural things that work great for allergies, getting adjusted. Yeah. Acupuncture. There's these really cool allergy elimination techniques that are done through electroacupuncture, like NAIT, Bioset, electroacupuncture according to Vol. So there's a lot of things out there to make you less miserable, and that will work together with your diet, your lifestyle. And as I always say, when it's an allergy season, if you're really, really mucousy, you want to pull things like gluten and dairy out of your diet, because gluten is super inflammatory. Dairy is super acidic and mucus producing, refined sugar, and soy can be as well. So those are some of the things we like to clean up in the diet, not because they're high histamine foods, just because they tend to produce inflammation and mucus in the body. So post any questions, comments below the video. Make sure to share this with all of your friends and family members suffering with allergy issues. And we'll be back next week talking about the immune system.
One other thing, neti pots, things to irrigate up in here. They have these little squeeze bottles that I can't ever get a neti pot to work with just gravity. So you can do these little squeeze bottles, and there's all kinds of stuff you can put in there with saline solution or even some
xylitol, silver, absolutely.
There's a lot of ways you can get in there and clean that stuff up.
It's good too, because a lot of people have infections within their sinus cavity as well. Usually when we do like gut protocols, it does impact that overgrowth in the sinus cavity as well. But if you just go directly in, that was a great little bonus tip. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.